Ex-CIA director. This is an amazing story. I don't know if you saw this was in Politico's Politics magazine over the weekend about how the George W. Bush White House, for the first 9 months they were in office, from January to September of 2001, ignored the warnings of the CIA, the NSA, the Naval Security, the Army Security, the Defense Department. I mean, just pretty much everybody. Which raises an interesting question. Why? This is a piece from this article by. Actually, I'm sorry, I don't have the author here. But you can find it over. This is a clip from Raw Story, and you can find the original story, I'm pretty sure, over at Politico.com. In an explosive revelation during an interview with Politico, the former CIA director, during President George W. Bush's administration, that would be George Tenet, claims his department informed White House officials over impending al-Qaeda attacks months before the president received the infamous bin Laden determined to strike in the U.S. briefing. Now, that was August 6th, right? According to ex-CIA head George Tenet and Cofer Black, then chief of the CIA's Counterterrorism Center, they called an emergency meeting with National Security Advisor Condoleezza Rice on July 10th. Now, keep in mind, this was just before George W. Bush went down to Crawford, Texas for the longest presidential vacation in history, which has always had me scratching my head. Why was he so afraid to stay in Washington, D.C.? And he wouldn't come back. He refused to come back. He spent the whole summer down there, longest presidential vacation in the history of the United States. And even after that, and he extended it longer than it was supposed to be. And even after that, when he was supposed to be back in Washington, D.C., he refused to go back to D.C. Instead, he went to his brother's state, Florida, where his brother could protect him. Anyhow, according to ex-CIA head George Tenet and Cofer Black, then chief of the CIA's Counterterrorism Center, they called an emergency meeting with Condoleezza Rice on July 10th, saying they had evidence that an attack on the U.S. was imminent and that it would be, quote, spectacular. Beginning in May of 2001, Tenet and Black launched an initiative called the Blue Sky Paper and pitched it to Bush's national security team. CIA called for a joint CIA and military campaign to end the al-Qaeda threat by getting into the Afghan sanctuary, launching a paramilitary operation, and creating a bridge with Uzbekistan. In other words, what they were proposing was, we know bin Laden is coming after us. We believe that. And we know where he is. He's got a training camp in Afghanistan. And we can go into that training camp and we can take it out. And we can do it via, putting an Air Force base or just, staging it out of Uzbekistan. And they're willing to do it. So here it is. We can stop 9/11. We can stop bin Laden. And Cofer Black and George Tenet, the director of the Central Intelligence Agency, brought this to George W. Bush and Dick Cheney and said, what do you think? According to back to the Politico article, according to Tenet, the Bush administration said they wanted to back burner the plan. And the word back, claims Tenet, was, quote, we're not quite ready to consider this. We don't want the clock to start ticking, end quote. Now back to quoting George Tenet, the CIA director, meaning they didn't want a paper trail. According to Cofer Black, Bush's national security team was living in the past. He said, I think they're mentally stuck back 8 years. They were used to terrorists being Euro lefties. They drink champagne at night, blow things up the day. How bad could that be? It's very difficult to sell, a very difficult sell to communicate the urgency of this. Now, I spoke with Sandy Berger, who was Bill Clinton's national security director. In fact, on the air on this program. And he told me that he had personal knowledge that Bill Clinton told George Bush, your biggest threat is Osama bin Laden. He's coming to get us. He had personal knowledge that Al Gore told Dick Cheney, your biggest threat is Osama bin Laden. He's coming to hit us. And he personally himself told Condoleezza Rice, who was his successor as national security advisor, this was Sandy Berger, live on this program, said, I told her it's bin Laden. And basically all three of them said, we don't care about bin Laden. we care about Saddam Hussein. We're gonna take out Iraq. This is crazy stuff. To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.